I'm Danny Burke, welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. That sounds like a pretty random name for a channel, right? Yeah, but wait till you hear this. It's where we make most amazing top 10 lists. Now it all makes sense, doesn't it? And today, guys, we're going to be talking about the top 10 most famous prisons. Now it's safe to say prisons suck. That's kind of the whole point of them. They're not meant to be a fun place, but some of them end up being more famous than others. And we're going to look at 10 of them right now. And let's start off with our number 10. It's a good place to start with Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay Detention Camp is arguably the most famous military detention camp in the world. It was opened in 2002 and was said to be built to detain extraordinarily dangerous people, interrogate detainees and prosecute them for war crimes. It became known for housing Al-Qaeda terror suspects, but grabbed worldwide attention when evidence of brutal treatment of prisoners came to light. Reports of torture have been emerging from the camp for a number of years now, and one prisoner called it a living terror. Released prisoners described being beaten, torture with broken glass, barbed wire and cigarette burning, as well as sexual abuse and forced drug injections, to name but a few. Suicide attempts have been on the rise ever since. It looks like a pretty barbaric place that seems to ignore human rights in some twisted pursuit of justice and information, neither of which it seems to have ever produced, even as you watch this video. At number 9 now, guys, we have the Tower of London, which was a pretty brutal place back in the day, but is now a popular tourist destination. Cool. The Tower of London was originally built as a castle almost 1,000 years ago, back in 1066, but soon became a grand royal palace with a prison as a secondary function. It continued to be a prison for the next 850 years, from 1100 until 1952. This place was still a prison when most of your grandparents were born. Mental. The Tudor period was when the really gruesome stuff started happening though. The cells were constantly full of prisoners waiting to be tortured on devices such as the torture rack. That's the device they use to torture people by slowly stretching you inch by inch until either you crack and give up your information or your body cracks. And if you really annoyed your captors, you get dragged off the Tower Hill and they would chop off your head, and people wonder why they say it's haunted. I can promise you that England is quite a bit more chill these days, so if you haven't been there already, then don't be put off by this. Coming in number 8 now, we're going to Cambodia for the infamous security prison 21 at Tuol Sleng. This place sits heavy on the mind of the Cambodian people as the prison of choice for the Khmer Rouge regime during the late 1970s, and the ones that did escape the genocide were sent to prisons like this one. Apparently over the 4 years it was open, 17,000 people went through its doors, few survived. New arrivals were taken straight to be interrogated using torture methods that included being beaten, electric shocked, burned with hot metal, suffocation, waterboarding and even having their fingernails ripped out. And then once they confessed to a crime they didn't do, the guards would just kill them and move on to the next prisoner. Out of those 17,000 people that entered Tuol Sleng prison, it's thought that only 7 people made it out alive, but it might as well have been a concentration camp. At number 7 now, guys, we've got Robben Island, and although most prisons are known for being pretty bad places, this one has a glimmer of hope within its story for being part of one of the most inspirational stories of all time. It has been used as a hospital, a military base, but most famously a maximum security prison for political prisoners. During South Africa's apartheid period, where black people struggled against white minority oppression, Robben Island became home to many prisoners who were arrested and put there for fighting this injustice. The most famous of all, Nelson Mandela. He was imprisoned on Robben Island for trying to bring an end to apartheid. He would remain there for the next 18 years, suffering years of harsh conditions. Prisoners spent their days breaking rocks into gravel or mining limestone in the blistering sun. Eventually he was released in 1990. He went on to become president of the country, and the prison was closed not long after he left. Coming in at number 6 is Carandiru prison in Sao Paulo, Brazil. There are many reasons why this place is famous. It was once the biggest prison in South America, was very cramped and experienced a vicious AIDS epidemic, but the real reason the world knows its name is because of the Carandiru massacre. On October 2nd, 1992, there was a prison riot among the inmates and military police were called in to try and de-escalate the situation. But instead of controlling the situation, they proceeded to massacre the prisoners. They opened fire on the unarmed inmates, killing 102 of them. Survivors reported that the police told many of their them to strip naked before executing them, as well as shooting prisoners who were surrendering or hiding under their beds. The prison ended up being demolished back in 2002, but for many Brazilians, the name of this prison will live on forever. At number 5 we have Gorée Island. For many African Americans, Gorée Island is a site of pilgrimage as they trace their family roots back to the era of slavery. This is said to be the place where many slaves from the African continent were taken to and sold during the slave trade. The site there, known as the House of Slaves, is thought to be the last place that the slaves were kept before they were transported to the Americas. Visitors go to see the famous Door of No Return, through which countless slaves are thought to have walked through and onto the waiting slave boats, never to see Africa again. The island is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site and serves as a memorial for people wanting to connect with their past or experience reflection on the atrocities of the slave trade. Alright, coming in at number 4 now guys, we've got Port Arthur on the Australian island of Tasmania. Built by the British Empire during the 18th and 19th centuries, Port Arthur was home to some of the most notorious British and Irish criminals who were shipped to the other side of the planet and put to work there. They were forced to build many of the buildings you can now visit on the island. It was thought to be an inescapable prison thanks to just a narrow strip of land joining it to the rest of the island and the surrounding waters being shark infested. But perhaps what Port Arthur is most famous for was the senseless massacre that took place there in April 1996 when a deranged gunman went on a killing spree, killing 35 people and wounding 23 who were either visiting or working at the former prison site. It's not very often that you can say the worst thing by far that happened at a prison happened long after it stopped being a prison. But now guys, we're going to be moving on to our number 3 and taking a look at Devil's Island. Yeah, it doesn't sound too nice. The prison first opened in 1832 in French Guinea and was known as one of the roughest prisons during the reign of Napoleon. It had a bad reputation for brutality, prisoner-on-prisoner violence and fierce tropical diseases. The horrible stories that we do know about this place came from the very few broken survivors. The survival rate was very low indeed. In fact, the vast majority of the 80,000 people who were sent there over its 90-year history never made it back to France alive. It was favoured by the government as being notoriously hard to escape. Those who tried to escape were faced with either piranha-infested rivers, jungle swamps, or the sea itself. I think I'd choose none of the above. It was finally closed in 1953. On to number 2 now, and we're going to be going from tropical heat to frozen wasteland with Pataki Island Prison. This is the most isolated prison in Russia and one of the most notorious. It's specifically designed to hold the country's most dangerous prisoners. It's isolated by the waters of White Lake. Inmates spend 22 hours of their day locked in one tiny cell with just their cellmate, and for the remaining 2 hours of that day they're allowed to pace around a small outdoor cage like animals. The prison psychologist said this place destroys people. The first 9 months or so they spend adapting. After 3 or 4 years their personalities begin to deteriorate. There is no way anyone can spend 25 years in a place like this without being psychologically destroyed. It's often referred to as the Russian Alcatraz, which brings us quite nicely now to our number 1 guys. We're going to be talking about the American Alcatraz, otherwise known as just Alcatraz. The Alcatraz Federal Prison sits on Alcatraz Island in the San Francisco Bay and used to house some of America's most violent and dangerous criminals between 1934 and 1963. Famous criminals who served in this maximum security prison include Al Scarface Capone and infamous murderer Robert Stroud. But what really gave Alcatraz its almost legendary status were the numerous escape attempts made by some of the prisoners. No inmates ever managed to escape what is known as the Rock. Its almost mythical reputation draws many tourists there every year who enjoy the guided tour of the facility, much of which has been left unchanged since its closure. Well guys, there you have it, 10 famous prisons for our lovely subscribers out there. If you are lovely but you're not a subscriber, then subscribe and you can be a lovely subscriber just like everyone else watching this. I know, it's that simple. In the meantime guys, keep the suggestions coming for the videos. We are taking some of the best ones and turn them into videos just like this one, so we love hearing from you, and if you want to keep watching more right this second, there's 2 videos floating over there, so give them a click. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching Most Amazing Top 10. We're bringing these to you every single day. My name's Danny Berg, and if you do want to follow me on Instagram, you can find it somewhere down there, and I'll see you guys soon.